according to the analysis of the Hindu newspaper dated 6 June 2020. Editorial 1. Shine a light on retraction of a research paper. The scientific process must be protected from those seeking power and riches. 2 weeks ago, a study in The Lancet, perhaps the most influential medical journal in the world, found no benefit from the use of hydroxychloroquine, HCQ, a well-known anti-malarial, to treat sick COVID-19 patients. Today, that study stands retracted, as it had relied on a huge dataset of about 96,000 patients sourced from 671 hospitals in 6 continents. The World Health Organization, citing a do no harm principle, suspended drug trials pending a safety review. This led to some countries in Europe withdrawing the drug from their own trials. Another study involving some of the same authors and relying on the same data published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which sought to answer questions on the associations between cardiovascular disease, COVID-19 and drugs that target the enzymes that play a role in facilitating the virus in attacking a host, has also been retracted. The Lancet study triggered a backlash from scientists who found problems with the methodology and, more importantly, the dataset. It emerged that mortality attributed to the disease in Australia did not match with the country's own estimates, there was no way to tally patient records and the hospitals they were sourced from, and there were problems with the statistics deployed and the conclusions about the potential risk from the drug. The bigger concern was that the data was supplied by Surgisphere Corporation, which had a handful of employees with limited scientific expertise, and claimed to have aggregated its numbers by compiling electronic health records in less than 2 months. Experienced clinical trial specialists said this was a labor-intensive process. Moreover, when aspersions about the data started to swirl, the company, citing client confidentiality, said it was unable to share its data sources for independent assessment. In their retractions, the journals have blamed Surgisphere for being opaque with its primary data. So far, neither journal has introspected on the peer review process that led to these studies being published in the first place. In hindsight, it seems obvious that a disinterested analysis would have raised eyebrows regarding data sourcing, but the post-COVID world is a panic-driven one that has left no institution or appraisal process untouched. The average peer review takes weeks and the clinical trial process months, but now the expectation is that science delivers its results like magic. For years now, questions have been raised on the effectiveness of the traditional, time-consuming peer review process, and this has launched a welcome culture of papers being uploaded as preprints for review. In the present instance of the HCQ imbroglio, it is the independent effort by external scientists that brought the blight to light. The key lesson is that it is a mistake to assume the scientific process as one divorced from the influence of power, privilege, finance, and politics. The means and methods to a scientific result matter more than results, only achieved through global scrutiny. Openness, more than blame game, is what the post-COVID world needs now. Editorial 2. Winning formula on revival of Formula 1. The best way to revive sport activities is to make a cautious, slow, low-key start. Just as the various global sporting leagues slowly revive, Formula 1 will do so too following the announcement of an 8-race revised calendar starting with a double-header in Austria during July. Earlier, the season-opening Australian Grand Prix in March was cancelled at the 11th hour after the whole contingent gathered at Melbourne when a member of the McLaren Formula 1 team tested positive for COVID-19. Since then, the sport has witnessed its first 10 rounds of the 22-race calendar either being cancelled or postponed. Recently, the German football league, Bundesliga, restarted its season, while the Premier League is scheduled to commence later this month. However, unlike football or other domestic leagues that are localized and can be played in a controlled environment, F1 faces unique challenges due to its global footprint that hops across 5 continents through the year. It also requires a huge amount of personnel and cargo movements to run an event. With travel curbs across the world, the sport has restricted the initial 8 races to its spiritual home of Europe, with Austria and Britain hosting multiple events. F1 has now adopted a set of operating procedures to get the show back on track, with every participant to be tested before and during the race weekend. Apart from there being no spectators, only 80 members per team will be allowed at the racetrack, while the broadcast crew will be a mere 60. The reworked F1 will have 1,200 essential staff, previously close to 5,000. More importantly, with even a small-sized team employing nearly 300 to 400, from engineers to mechanics, the sport needs a star to keep the teams afloat not just this year but beyond as well. The F1 group has already pledged to pay 100% of prize money to the teams, and for that it needs the show to go on. A minimum of 8 races is needed to constitute a world championship, and it is understood 15 to 18 races are required in a year to maximize the TV rights revenues, especially at a time when the race hosting fees, a major component of the F1 group's revenue, is unlikely to be paid by the various countries. With jobs at stake, Formula One has made the right call to make its best attempt at starting the season. At the same time, the sport needs to be nimble to make quick decisions in case of unexpected scenarios, and the lessons learned from Australia should hold the organizers in good stead. If F1 can demonstrate a good restart, it will inspire the rest of the sporting industry to get back on its feet. Thanks.